Welcome to the Terran Expanse. If you're ready for an epic adventure, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter of this incredible journey. Lieutenant Adrian Voss leaned against the observation window of the Aegis, humanity's most advanced stealth vessel. The asteroid belt they'd used as cover glittered faintly, a distant chorus to the swirling dance of a nearby nebula. Somewhere beyond it lay Zalthara, his target, a world teeming with bioluminescent cities, advanced technology, and the secrets humanity craved. Adrian had been chosen for this mission because of his unique augmentations. His body had been modified to adopt the genetic blueprint of other species, allowing him to mimic their appearance flawlessly. With his Zaltharan disguise, he could infiltrate their world undetected and dismantle the energy systems that powered their civilization. But no simulation, no briefing, could prepare him for the weight of the task. He wasn't just blending into another culture, he was living among people his leaders had dehumanized. The order from command echoed in his mind: disable their energy grid. Cripple their cities. Ensure humanity's victory. His jaw tightened. Focus on the mission. It was a mantra that had carried him through dozens of operations. Yet something about this one felt different. The descent onto Lyarkale was breathtaking. The Zaltharan capital shimmered with organic life, from its coral-like spires to its bioluminescent streets glowing softly beneath a liquid sky. The alien atmosphere felt thick but breathable, its warmth prickling Adrian's synthetic skin. The identity he'd been given was Talek, a low-level technocrat eager to find work in the city's research sector. His entry papers were flawless, and the bioluminescent tattoos etched onto his forearms, a mark of the Zaltharan caste system, completed the illusion. Adrian wasted no time integrating into his new environment. He secured a position as an assistant at the Lyarkale Research Collective, a sprawling facility where the Zaltharans developed their most cutting-edge technology. And it was there he first encountered Ari'essa. She was a lead researcher, her every movement exuding confidence and authority. Unlike the serene grace of her peers, Ari'essa was a whirlwind, a sharp-tongued firebrand with a wit that could slice through steel. Her iridescent skin shimmered with hues of violet and gold, and her facial frills quivered slightly when she spoke. "You're the new hire?" she asked on his first day, her tone more skeptical than welcoming. "Yes," Adrian replied, careful to mimic the cadence of the Zaltharan language. Her eyes narrowed as she appraised him. "Try not to blow anything up." He couldn't help but smirk. "I'll do my best." Days turned into weeks, and Adrian's cover held firm. He worked closely with Ari'essa, whose sharp mind and relentless drive pushed him to stay on his toes. Their dynamic was electric, filled with banter and occasional clashes over methodology. "You're too cautious," she chided one day, waving a diagnostic tool at him. "Science demands boldness." "And recklessness," he countered, raising an eyebrow. Her lips quirked into a smirk. "Sometimes they're the same thing." Despite her intensity, there were moments of softness that caught him off guard, like when she showed him the glowing flora in the facility's atrium or shared stories of her childhood exploring the luminous caverns of her homeworld. "You don't talk about your past much," she remarked one evening as they worked late. Adrian hesitated. "It's complicated." Ari'essa studied him, her violet eyes searching his face. "Everyone has ghosts, Lyvian. But you wear yours like armor." He forced a laugh to deflect the tension. "And you? What do you wear?" She grinned, leaning closer. "Fire. It keeps people warm, or burns them if they get too close." For a moment, the air between them crackled, charged with something unspoken. Ari'essa invited Adrian to the Zalthara caverns one evening, a rare privilege, as few outsiders were permitted to visit. Beneath the glowing spires of Lyarkale lay an intricate network of tunnels, their crystalline walls pulsing with light. "This is where I feel most alive," Ari'essa said, her voice reverent. "The mother core is buried here. It's our first and most powerful energy source. Without it, none of this would exist." Adrian felt a strange sensation as they approached the core's chamber, a whispering in his mind, as if the energy source itself were alive. It knows you, Ari'essa said, her tone wary. The mother core is sentient. It feels, it thinks, it connects us all. Adrian's mission had taken on a new gravity. Destroying Zalthara's energy infrastructure meant annihilating the very soul of their civilization. As Adrian and Ari'essa's relationship deepened, their connection grew impossible to ignore. One night, after a particularly heated argument over lab protocols, the tension between them erupted. "You're infuriating," she snapped, her frills flaring. "And you're impossible," he shot back. Their faces were inches apart, the air between them charged. Before he could think better of it, Adrian kissed her. For a moment, she froze. Then she kissed him back, her arms wrapping around him as if to anchor herself in the storm. That night, beneath the glow of the city, they gave into the passion that had been simmering between them for so long. Ari'essa's sharp mind uncovered the anomalies Adrian had caused in the energy systems. Cornering him in the lab, she demanded answers. "You're human, aren't you?" she asked, her voice trembling. Adrian didn't deny it. "Yes. But Ari, I..." "Don't," she snapped. "You lied to me. You used me." "I never meant to hurt you," he said desperately. "I was sent here to destroy your defenses, but everything changed when I met you." Her expression softened briefly before the anger returned. "If that's true, prove it. Help me save my people." Adrian agreed to help Ari'essa protect the mother core. Together, they discovered that the real threat wasn't humanity, it was a faction within the Zaltharan government. The technocrats, desperate to consolidate power, planned to sacrifice the core and blame humanity for its destruction. "We've been fighting the wrong enemy," Adrian said grimly. Ari'essa's eyes blazed with determination. "Then we fight back." The air in the Zalthara caverns was thick with tension, the hum of the mother core reverberating through the crystalline walls like a living heartbeat. The rebel forces led by Ari'essa and Adrian were vastly outnumbered, their ranks filled with civilians, researchers, and a handful of disillusioned Zaltharan soldiers. Opposing them stood the technocrats' elite enforcers, armed with weapons designed to manipulate the same energy that pulsed through the caverns. Adrian's human instincts screamed at him to run, to find some shadow to hide in until the chaos passed. But when he glanced at Ari'essa, her luminous skin glowing faintly in the dim light, he knew he couldn't. Her eyes were sharp with determination, her posture unwavering as she gave commands to their ragged forces. "Hold the northern corridor," she ordered a group of rebels, her voice steady despite the tremor in her frills. "We can't let them reach the mother core." Adrian stepped closer to her, his voice low. "We need a better plan. We can't hold them off forever." She turned to him, her gaze fierce. "We don't need forever. We just need enough time to stabilize the core." Her confidence was infectious, but Adrian could see the cracks beneath it. She was scared, terrified, even, but she hid it for the sake of her people. He reached out, his hand brushing her arm. "We'll make it," he said softly. She hesitated, then nodded, her fingers briefly squeezing his. "We have to." The technocrats' assault began with a burst of light and sound that echoed through the cavern like thunder. Adrian and Ari'essa fought side by side, their weapons charged with the mother core's energy. The core itself seemed to respond to their desperation, its glow intensifying and sending waves of power through the tunnels. But the enemy was relentless. Adrian watched in horror as one of the technocrats unleashed a destabilizing pulse aimed directly at the core. The resulting shockwave threw him to the ground, his ears ringing and his vision swimming. When he scrambled to his feet, he saw Ari'essa kneeling beside a collapsed rebel, her face pale with fear. "They're trying to overload it," she shouted, her voice barely audible over the cacophony. Adrian's mind raced. If the core was destabilized, the resulting explosion would obliterate the entire cavern system, and likely the planet's surface. He grabbed Ari'essa's arm, his grip firm. "There's a failsafe," he said. "I saw it in the schematics." Her eyes widened. "You mean the human schematics? The ones you were sent here with?" He nodded, guilt flickering across his face. "Yes. I can use them to stabilize the core, but," He hesitated, the weight of the truth crushing him. But what? It'll kill me, he admitted, his voice breaking. The failsafe requires a direct energy link. A human link. For a moment, Ari'essa simply stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then she shook her head, her frills quivering. No. There has to be another way. There isn't, he said firmly. This is what I can do, Ari. This is how I make it right. Her hands clenched into fists, her breath coming in ragged gasps. I won't let you. You have to, he interrupted, his voice steady now. You said it yourself, we have to protect the core. And this is the only way. The cavern shook violently as another pulse rippled through the core. Time was running out. Adrian cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his gaze. I love you, he said, the words spilling out with a raw intensity. And if this is the only way to keep you safe, to keep your people safe, then it's worth it. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Instead, she leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his. You're impossible, she whispered, her voice trembling. And you're the reason I'm doing this, he replied. With a final kiss, a desperate, lingering embrace that seemed to sear itself into his very soul, Adrian turned and ran toward the core's chamber. The rebels fought valiantly to hold off the technocrats, giving him just enough time to reach the central console. The mother core pulsed wildly, its glow fluctuating erratically. Adrian's augmented mind worked quickly, deciphering the schematics and initiating the failsafe sequence. As he placed his hands on the glowing interface, the core's energy surged through him, searing his nerves and flooding his consciousness with light. He felt everything, the pain, the fear, the hopes of an entire civilization. And then, beneath it all, he felt Ari'essa. She was running toward him, shouting his name. He wanted to tell her to stop, to turn back, but he couldn't form the words. The failsafe activated with a brilliant flash of light, and for a moment, everything was silent. When the light faded, the mother core was stable, its glow steady and serene. The technocrats had retreated, their forces in disarray. The cavern was eerily quiet now, save for the soft hum of the core. Ari'essa stood at the edge of the chamber, her body trembling as she stared at the empty space where Adrian had stood. He was gone. But as she stepped closer to the core, she felt a warmth envelop her, a presence that was achingly familiar. The core pulsed softly, and for a brief moment, she thought she heard his voice. I told you I'd protect you, it whispered. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she pressed her hand to the core, her heart breaking and healing all at once. You did, she whispered back. And I'll never forget. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Terran expanse. Love, betrayal, and redemption among the stars, this is just the beginning.